let the people who called me a monster define me? Am I gonna let the people who said kill it with fire define me? No.
Howdy everyone, this is Lizzie Velasquez, an American motivational speaker, activist, author, and YouTuber. She was born with an extremely rare congenital disease called Marfanoid progeroid lipodystrophy syndrome that, among other symptoms, prevents her from accumulating body fat and gaining weight. Her conditions resulted in bullying during her childhood, ever since she was dubbed the world's ugliest woman in a video posted on YouTube in 2006, when she was 17. I have a question, do you have an answer? What makes someone ugly and why do people decide what ugly is? Now, I know what you are thinking. Why are we here to speak about ugliness and not beauty? We spend a lot of time trying to be better and not worse, right? Well, sometimes our perspective about what beauty is can be very different throughout our history. To understand where the definition of ugliness started, let's remember what the Italian philosopher Umberto Eco said: beauty is boring. So follow me in this adventure and don't forget to like, subscribe and share for more strange news stories told by an alien and her imaginary friend, a pair that otherwise can be found anywhere. Here is Dead Bunny to tell you more.
Hello! Ugliness can be unpredictable and judged by a range of possibilities. It finds its origin in the Middle Ages. In Old Norse, it means to be feared or dreaded. The word was adapted in medieval times, and the concept of ugliness has always been a part of society. For example, Aristotle called women deformed men. Also, in ancient Greek, the word for ugliness, kakos, connoted evil, disgrace, and handicap. In Greek culture, in fact, physical features tended to be seen as a reflection of internal worth or congenital omen. The ancient pseudo-science of physiognomy believed moral goodness and evil were proportionate to beautiful and ugly features. This was the reason why in the Middle Ages the devil was depicted as a monster, inheriting this concept directly from the Greeks and Romans. Medieval fairy tales transformed beauties and beasts, but the negative connotations carried across centuries. Those who got it the worst were witches. Early witches were people who practiced witchcraft, using magic spells and calling upon spirits for help or to bring about change. Most witches were thought to be pagans doing the devil's work. Many, however, were simply natural healers or so-called wise women whose life choices were misunderstood. Also, for the Catholic and Protestant churches, these women represented a real threat because they alienated many believers who sought the solution of their problems with potions and rituals. Thus, it was because the church began to paint witches as old and repulsive women that they became the mandators of the message of Satan. Monsters arose in the margins of misunderstanding as colonial empires expanded. European explorers, for instance, interpreted ugly sculptures of Indian gods as apocalyptic omens, read through Christian narratives for which they were never intended. Samuel Johnson, in his dictionary in 1755, defined ugliness as an interchangeable word of deformity, and one is characterized as the other, along with additional meanings of moral depravity and crookedness. In San Francisco, Chinese immigrants and their descendants were unlawfully quarantined to prevent the spread of disease and epidemics, because there was the belief that the Chinese immigrants could spread more diseases than other immigrants. This is why it's dangerous to call COVID-19 the China virus. It can reactivate the old association with viruses and Chinese people, and bring back the old racist concepts that were never proven by science. It's just another way to discriminate. If all this wasn't enough, from 1867 to 1974, in the USA, there was the Ugly Law. What was it? These laws deemed it illegal for any person who's diseased, maimed, mutilated, or deformed in any way, so as to be an unsightly or disgusting object, to expose himself or herself to public view. The first recorded arrest pertaining to ugly laws was Martin Oates in San Francisco, California, in July 1867. Oates was a former Union soldier during the American Civil War. The ugly laws did not restrict performances of people with disabilities for the purpose of entertainment or eliciting disgust, but rather restricted people with disabilities from mingling with the general public. So the only place where people with disabilities or deformities could find a job was in circuses. But these shows became a place to mock and dehumanize these people, who were assimilated as horrible creatures. Fortunately, in 1990, Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act to protect people with disabilities, just 16 years after the repeal of the ugly laws. According to Eon, the 18th and 19th centuries continued to test the wavering line between beauty and ugliness. Caricatures and exaggerated features were used at a time when ugliness and deformity were defined almost interchangeably. The British parliamentarian William Hay, who was hunchbacked, tried to disentangle deformity from having a negative connotation, and argued that his deformed body did not mirror an ugly soul. Even as traditional meanings were challenged, freak shows hurled ugliness to new heights, alongside museums of anatomy and world fairs that exhibited human species and ethnic displays. With the First World War, many soldiers who were disfigured by artillery blasts or wounded in combat had scars and amputated limbs, and it became a hallmark of valor and service to their country. By the 1930s, Nazi Germany supported a nationalized aesthetic to censor the ugly in terms of degenerate, correlating artworks and cultural groups alike as targets of persecution and extermination. During times of conflict, any threat or enemy can be uglified and thus marginalized. An individual can get lumped into an ugly group by any arbitrary feature. Giulia Pastrana was a former singer during the 19th century who had hypertrichosis. Hypertrichosis is an abnormal amount of hair growth over the body. Her face and body were covered with straight black hair. Her ears and nose were unusually large, and her teeth were irregular. The latter condition was caused by a rare disease, undiagnosed in her lifetime, gingival hyperplasia, which thickened her lips and gums. Giulia was billed on the freak show circuit as the ugliest woman in the world. Brought to Europe, she performed according to Victorian norms, singing and dancing, speaking in foreign languages, undergoing public medical examinations and other entertainment spectacles. Both in her lifetime and posthumously, she was labeled ugly. Here's Dysphonia with some closing thoughts.
In the end, I think there is a beauty to the ugly, and this is something which cannot be expressed in words, but it's our history of beauty and ugliness being expressed at the same time. One only has to look around the world at the different concepts of beauty expressed by current and historical cultures and tribes that show the wide spectrum of what humans can consider as beauty or ugliness. What does ugly mean to you? What do you think is beautiful? Don't be shy and leave a comment now, your opinion matters. Also, if you would like to support us on Patreon, you can find a link in the description, as well as our store. And don't forget to like, subscribe and share. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't, press thumbs down twice, just to be sure. Take it easy. Peace! Oh, by the way, I'm an alien. But not that kind of alien.